Everyone, it's Misty, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of our Creative Weekly Wisdom over at Creating the Crafty Life. Today, I'm going to show you how you can create a box just from some cardstock and basic supplies. Today, I'll be using craft cardstock. It is the cardstock I prefer to use as my base. I think it's a nice neutral color. Black or white or cream would be really good for this too. Most colored cardstocks are thick enough to be the base, but you want to be careful if you're using like store brand cardstocks, say like the Michaels version or Joann's or Hobby Lobby. They might not be quite as good quality for the base of a box. But any other types of brands usually will be thick enough because they're usually run about, I would say about 100 pounds or so. Neenah white cardstock that's typically used for card making should be okay, as well as I believe there's Coordinations white cardstock that's 110 pound. That would work as well. If you have thick design cardstock, then you wouldn't have to do much decorating because all that would be done for you. I do want to share one example. This is actually made by Kim, so let me go ahead and share that. And hers is going to be much larger than what we're going to make today, but she had made this a while back for me, and it's just black cardstock. So you can see this is going to be one that opens up from top just with a lid, and that you can decorate it. You can decorate side panels if you need to, or just the top. Typically, I just decorate the top for this. So I'm not sure how she made this, but I'm just going to make mine by hand. So what you'll need is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. You might need more depending on how big your box is. I've made boxes to where most of this is taken up for just one side, or you know, the top, and then another sheet for the bottom. But today we're just going to use one sheet. And then you need some sort of trimmer and a scoreboard, as well as scissors and your preferred adhesive. For boxes, I do prefer to use the tape adhesive because it's really strong, so you'll never have to worry about anything, you know, like slowly peeling apart or anything like that. I am going to decorate this, so I do have some stuff I already cut down to size, and I just have this scrap piece of paper here that I'm going to go ahead and use to decorate, and then a few like pieces of scrap embellishments that I have, and then I am going to do just a little bit of inking. So when you're doing this, you basically can customize this to any size to your projects. So you don't have to stick with one size. Let's say if you have dies, you're kind of limited to the size. If you have a die cutting machine, like an electronic one, sometimes you have to play around to figure out what you need. And then when you have like the scoreboards for the We Are Memory Keeper ones, the ones that do the punch boards for boxes and envelopes and things like that, you're kind of limited on the thickness, and it can get a little like a little confusing sometimes where you score, where you punch, and all that kind of stuff. This I find is just so much quicker and easier for me, and I just wanted to show you how you can do it by hand. So I'm going to use this as an example today. What I do is I measure whatever product I'm putting in the box. Sometimes it's multiple, so I just kind of lay them out and then measure it. And that's going to be the base. Whatever the measurement you're taking will be the width of your box. So because this is about 2.5 inches, I'm going to actually do it as a 3-inch. You can do a little smaller, a little bigger, but for me the math is just easier. So we're going to do 3 inches. And then this way I'm going to do 4 inches, because you remember, make sure that you give a little bit of space around your project, especially if you have embellishments like this one that stick out just a little further. I've made that mistake and had to remake my boxes. Now the thickness, this is the part I like, how tall your box is going to be. I like that you can customize that very easily. So like I said, we're doing 3 inches, and then I'm going to make mine about a 1/2 inch tall. And so I have to remember you want a 1/2 inch on either side. So when we measure this out, we're doing 3 inches plus a 1/2 and another 1/2, it's 4 inches. So it's a really easy math. So when we're going to cut our cardstock, we're going to do 4 inches by 5 inches. 4 inches for this way, and then 5 inches for this way. And then you'll see how it all comes together once we start the scoring process. So there is another little trick for when you have a lid and a base, that way they actually fit together properly, and I'll share that with you in 1 second as soon as we get our cardstock cut for the first cut. So we're doing, let's see here, we're doing 3 by 5, so actually I'm going to cut this at 5 inches. Okay. And then we're cutting 4 inches. So this first one here is going to be the top, and I'm cutting it directly at 4 inches. I find this is the easiest way. Bam, 4 inches done. And then now we're doing the bottom. Now you want the bottom to be just ever so slightly smaller, not too small that you have big gaps when you put the two halves together, but you want it just enough that your top will easily slide onto your bottom. So I zoomed in, and you can see that we're just shy of that 4-inch mark. And that's all the more you really want to do. And we're only doing it on one side because you don't need to do it on both sides because it's just the bottom piece. We're just barely under. So that will be split into half on either side of your box once your lid goes down. And that is just enough space. So I'm going to do the same thing that, and then I am also going to turn it around, and this one was at our 5-inch, so I'm going to go just shy the 5-inch as well. I'm going to go ahead and cut those, and then I'll be right back. So we're going for the 1/2-inch tall. So we're just going to score at the 1/2-inch mark all the way around. Okay, and then this was our bottom piece that we cut slightly shy. You're still going to do the same thing, a 1/2-inch, because you want the sides to be the same height. You just want the base to be ever so slightly smaller. So we're just going to do a 1/2-inch as well. You have your score marks that create this little square over here. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your scissors and you are going to cut, and it does not matter if you cut this side or this side, but you only want to cut one side. So that way you have a flap that you can fold in. And you're just going to cut straight down that line. Now, you also could score this prior to doing that, and it will make cutting it a little bit easier. Now, we scored where we pushed the valley down this way, so you're going to want to flip it over, and this side is going to become your inside. So now we just do here. You're just going to go ahead and burnish all your edges all the way around. And same thing with this one. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I'm just going to start cutting. Now I also like to cut just a little triangle. It doesn't matter, it can just be ever so slightly all the way into the corner. This just prevents the bottom from touching the from the little flap, the bottom of the flap. If it actually touches the bottom, it could make this whole piece come up a little too high, and then these two sides won't be flush. So that's the only purpose of that. So the last thing I like to do before I start putting the adhesive down is I like to actually burnish with my bone folder. And this will make so you can actually see that it's a little wavy and it's not exactly like just crisp for your box. So what I do is I just fold it down and then just burnish with my bone folder. You just want to really crease that edge, and it makes it super straight, and you can see it's very, very, very straight. I'm just adding adhesive to the outer or the top edge of each spot. You don't need to cover the entire flap, and just actually make sure you're doing it on the outside, not the inside. So you want the very top edge and outer edge of each flap. Like I said, you can use a tape runner for this if you'd like. It doesn't matter. But you just want to make sure whatever you're using is really strong. We're going to go ahead and just peel back all of these. Okay, and I'm just going to fold it up and then just meet the folded edge, once that flap is folded in, with this edge. And just make sure they're as level as they can be. And if you do feel like you have a bowed out area right here, you can just simply take your bone folder and just kind of gently rub down the very spine of that fold, and it will straighten it out, as you can see. Okay, so now our box base is finished, and you can see how it does snugly fit in there, but you still have just a little bit of wiggle room, that it does come in and out easily. So I like to actually keep it closed when I'm going to decorate it. That way it's just a bit more sturdy when we're decorating the top. So I have a piece of cardstock that's cut down to where I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch around the border. But you can decorate this however you want. If you wanted to keep it more simple, and you can just put a ribbon around it, or a piece of lace or something, or twine, that works too. I just like to decorate mine just a little bit, and it kind of just almost makes it almost like a little second mini project. This is a really good way to use up a lot of your scraps if you're making little boxes. I have a ton of scraps. I have embellishment scraps. I have, just little bits and pieces I might have made for a project that I ended up not using. And then I had tons of paper scraps. So this is a really, really good way to use this up. Okay. And you just want to, and then you can also just burnish the inside just a little bit. Make sure that's all adhered. This will really adhere all your adhesive. So I thought it was cute. I thought it was easy to use up your scraps, and I would normally put maybe a little bit of tissue in here, and then just stick your project right in and you're good to go. And you can actually make these a little thinner, but I wouldn't go much thinner than this, because then it does get a little bit trickier on the sturdiness because it's so thin, or so shallow. I mean, this is already pretty shallow, so you can go as tall as you want with these. You just might need more than one sheet of cardstock for that. But I think this come out really, really good. And it is fairly sturdy, but also just remember it is paper. and it's not beefed up with chipboard or anything like that, so if it can get smashed easily. But I think this is cute. Even this is a really good size for a gift card. This makes a great gift card box too. So I'll have the measurements and stuff down in the below the video as well, just if you want to make this particular size. This is an ATC, a standard ATC, so this particular box is really good for ATCs or baseball cards and things of that nature, that kind of size frame. And that'll be all, and I enjoy seeing your comments down below, so make sure that you leave one, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!